the clock is ticking for Geni 2024, the largest youth entrepreneurship festival in Europe. Well, over 370,000 young people have started the journey in September, and everybody is there now, nervous and excited to know who is going to be the most innovative company in Europe, as well as the company of the year of JA in Europe, both for the mini companies and the. And here we have another Gen E podcast. You already know it. You know it because you're clicking, you're sharing, and you're following us on Spotify, for instance, on our YouTube channel. But that's not enough, because what we are doing it today, we're really flying and flying high. We're flying high with a new podcast on how can we maintain sustainability in travel and aviation. That we do it with Delta Airlines, which is a great partner and supporter of Gen E 2024. And I'm so glad to have a fellow Italian here with me, which is Matteo Curcio, Senior Vice President, Europe, Middle East, Africa, and India. So many regions and countries at Delta Airlines. Hello, Matteo.
Hello, Salvatore. How are you?
Very good, very good. Matteo is also JA Europe board member, so he's very committed in championing the next generation of European and providing them opportunities. Opportunities where? Well, in the travel and aviation industry, but today we're tackling a specific aspect of the travel and aviation industry, also because the award of Geni 2024 is about sustainable innovation that Delta is providing to those young people. So someone like me, someone like you travel across the globe, but let's travel in our past first. Is this the kind of job you always wanted to do?
Well, I didn't expect to travel as much as I travel these days when I was dreaming about my job. I was more dreaming about an office, and my office is the plane. But to be honest with you, traveling has been always one of my dreams in terms of knowing the world. And so from that perspective, it is a dream job.
It is. I also do that. But we also want to be sustainable while traveling. So can you give us some example of current sustainability initiative within the travel and aviation sector?
Absolutely. As you know, this is a key theme across the industry. And of course, for Delta, we are at the very forefront of the sustainability efforts. And I think when you think about sustainability in our industry, there's different angle. First and foremost is fuel consumption on the plane, right? And how you tackle that. I think there's an angle of continuity, which is renovation of our fleets. Because as you know, the next generation planes that are coming now are 20, sometimes even 25% more fuel efficient than old generation planes. So there's an angle of...
Wow, yes, that's quite a lot, exactly, considering how many planes we have across the globe that are flying.
Exactly. And so we are all working very hard in introducing next generation plane. And this process has been even accelerated, I think, during COVID, because we had the opportunity to accelerate the retirement of some fleet and bring new planes and next generation planes into consideration. So that's an angle that we continue to do as everyday activity. Medium term, I think the biggest opportunity is what we call SAF, Sustainable Aviation Fuel. So it's shifting to SAF as fast as possible. And we are all, as an industry, committed to do that. But the problem, Salvatore, is that still there's not enough of SAF available. So we want to scale, but what we need to do is scale the production of sustainable aviation fuel. And that's, I think, is the biggest challenge, but also the biggest opportunity that as an industry we have ahead of us. And it's not an easy opportunity.
It's like when I want to drive my electric car, but I do not have enough recharge points or energy that is available for me, right? I mean, that's more or less the same. We want to have a nice car, but we don't have.
we need to be able to buy and access the stuff, and we need also to produce it as a system in a way that is economically viable, because the price also is a very key factor in determining our ability to use it. And I think it's a problem that it affects all of us, because to produce stuff at scale, I think you need more and more collaboration between different enterprise, and you need the government, and you need organization, and you need entrepreneurs. So I think it's a challenge that applies very well also to us as a junior achievement, because I think more and more we'll need people capable of changing and trying and cooperating to be
That's an important point, because you see then a role for the new entrepreneurship in driving this change. No, how can they drive this change, this young generation?
Well, I mean, as you know, we just launched together a Sustainable Aviation Challenge at Junior Achievement. We will have some of the teams that have been selected as the finalists to come to our headquarters at Delta Airlines in Atlanta to present their project. And when I was reading the projects and the idea that came out are pretty impressive. Just to give you an example, and I don't want to spoil, of course, anybody context here, but one team of the finalists came up with this idea to produce a uniform for flight attendants and pilots and captains that they can be then recycled. And imagine the production and how massive that production is a very good idea in my mind. And when you think about other initiatives that as industry and as airline we can do to improve our fuel efficiency, one of that is definitely to reduce waste and to reduce the weight of the planes, because the less the plane weighs, the less, of course, we consume fuel, similar to the car. And at the same time, the less we embark things that we cannot use or we don't use, we are more efficient. We started a few years ago at Delta, and of course, others followed us, to allow for customers to pre-select their meals. And that started in business class, then it's extending now to premium economy. I expect a future, of course, that will extend also to economy cabin. But of course, that was an idea that started to make our service to our top customer better. It was ugly when you would enter business class and you select your favorite meal, and the flight attendant would tell you, well, sorry, we are out of steak. Everybody already chose the same one. And so that triggered the start of the pre-select meal, where you can go on our app before your flight and say, oh, this is the menu, this is what I want. But the beauty
also,
of that...
It helps a lot. There are people who just, hey, wait a second, I just had lunch. I do not want to have another lunch as soon as I jump on the plane, and maybe eating a little bit, and then there's a huge waste out there. I can say, well, no, I don't, right? So it's much better, indeed.
Totally. You got it. Bravo. So you got a double benefit. Reduce waste, because some customer can even select not to have the meal, and at that point, you don't even embark it on the plane. And in any case, the fact that the customer select allows us to be more precise in determining the quantities that we need. And therefore, we are much more effective in reducing the weight. So it's really exciting in terms of, sometimes it's also the ability of combining customer-related choices in optic of sustainability. And that's what we need to do every day. Every choice needs to be directed to customer, but also to sustainability. Of course, when you think about what we're doing on board, the other big theme is reducing the single-use plastic, which is, along other recycling program, probably the most important one. And I think on that front, we are really putting a lot of effort, as we have basically 7 million pounds that we already removed from the Delta network in terms of single-use plastic. And so it's quite exciting, if I can tell.
Well, definitely, those are some ideas, but I do invite our followers here to write more in the comments. Do you have any exciting idea about it? How to even do more? Please write, engage in the comments of this podcast. Many of those we will definitely see it at Jenny 2024. We saw this year specifically an incredible amount of mini companies and startups who have not only embedded sustainability principles, but are actually focusing as great social entrepreneur on sustainable topics. So your jury will have quite a lot to choose for, but also a very hard task. I can tell you, a very hard task. Do you have some successful collaboration that you want to also mention, maybe Matteo, in addition to the one we have with JAA and Delta Airlines that has been already for so many years that you can, we wanted to flag with government, with you, with UN, with other organizations?
Well, I think on the theme of sustainability, we're very proud of some initiatives that are quite recent. One is we are one of the founding member of the Minnesota SAF Hub, which is really the first of a kind coalition in Minnesota to scale SAF. And we have a super important partner, of course, localities, government, Bank of America. But the goal, of course, is to use this setup in Minnesota to scale a big time SAF from that perspective. I also want to mention, and talking about new generation, and I think this is a theme that some of the people in this chat will experience sooner or later more than us, but we made a significant investment of over around $60 million in Joby, which is a company that is going to produce electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicles. Those will be your taxis to go from downtown to the airport, and they will start service not too far from now in cities like New York, Los Angeles, and then eventually, of course, in Europe. But there is a lot of change in the space of travel that will also impact how we get to the airport and the partner that we select in that journey in order to be more sustainable. And this is expect to launch already 2025, and we're very excited about that. And
so it's not only about when you fly, it's only how do you get to the place where you have to fly, right? That is to also make it more sustainable. Amazing. Yeah, something we haven't thought about. So those young people that are following us on the podcast today, those will be the traveler of the future.
Right. They will be the real traveler of
the future. What kind of travel they will encounter? So I saw some experiments this year already on, I do remember printing the ticket, the boarding pass, then we move it to the electronic boarding pass. Now I'm seeing it about directly in some airport, facial recognition that gets you straight on the plane. So the whole experiencing is changed. It's more sustainable from one side because all those paper things that they were always losing it somewhere, right? It's much more sustainable. I think it's becoming more and more digital, but also the kind of experience is changing.
I totally agree. I think it's more and more digital. As you said, what we want to do is give you all the power of your travel experience and reduce your anxiety through digital, because at the end of the day, when you open our app, you should be able to be already checked in. You should be able to change your flight. You should be able to reprotect yourself if something bad happens. You should be able to do exactly 99% of the activities related to travel. We want to give you an airport experience that is more and more technology driven. And as you said, think about now in many of our apps in US, you don't need to do anything else than show up with your face. And that's quite impressive to go from the street to the plane just by virtue of facial recognition. And then we want to be more and more personalized to what you like, because at the end of the day, Delta was the very first carrier to launch free Wi-Fi on scale on all the domestic network. All our planes have Wi-Fi, and we have over 1,200 planes. But and it's all free on the domestic. We also announced free Wi-Fi internationally, and that is happening at the end of this year, beginning of next year. Wow. It's going to be implemented. But when I talk about free Wi-Fi, it's not about messaging on the plane, but it's about streaming, it's about accessing all what we launched Delta Sync, which is a new platform where you'll be able to stream your favorite program. You're able to connect with your Spotify. You'll be able to connect with your usual application. So it's really completely changing the game in terms of the plane being an extension of your daily life and not a moment that represents a complete shutdown versus what you were doing before. And you couple that, of course, with also better product on board, because our cabins are continuing to improving. We're continuing to differentiate. If you think about where the industry was 20 years ago, there was basically two cabin, economy and business. And now you see now that the planes are really at 4 and 5 cabins, because people may want different things, and we're looking more and more on how to offer the best experience and the most tailored experience.
Different experience, different kind of people, different flavors, different preferences. What's your preference, a aisle seat or window seat?
I do prefer aisle seat, to be honest with you. I am an aisle guy.
You're an aisle guy. Very good. So many of those young people are jumping on the plane to come to Catania for Gen E 2024. Many of these young people are jumping into the virtual space of the Virtual Expo, right, where we have the amazing virtual stand that they've built, over thousands of mini companies and startups already there, that I invite all of our followers to discover. On geni.eu, you will enter there from the 22nd on May onwards, whenever you're listening to this podcast. But there is this great opportunity really of interacting, engaging with young people and with their business solution that they are providing. Many of those are aiming to be awarded with the Delta Sustainable Innovation Award, Matteo. So do we want to give them some tips about how to
tips I can give you? Basically, what we will look at in awarding the winners. I think there's some criteria that everybody should be looking for, and I think innovation, of course, so being innovative. Scalability, because we can all be innovative, but it needs something that we can bring to bigger scale eventually. The sustainability of the idea, because this is going to be a key topic. And then I think implementability, how actually implementable and how easy to implement is this idea. So I think if it was me, I would look at those criteria and stress test our ideas according to, am I innovating, am I scalable, am I implementable, and am I sustainable? And that's my tip for the award.
That's amazing indeed. That's amazing. That's amazing indeed. So I'm sure that many of our young people will look and will treasure those advices that you have just given. I wanted to thank you, Matteo. I really wanted to thank you and Delta Airlines for being such a great supporter across Europe, for believing that this idea of the young people that they're transforming into mini company can really take off, hopefully on Delta planes, but as future leaders, entrepreneurs, and travelers, absolutely. But their idea goes beyond Europe. They're really global and making a global impact. So you know what you have to do. I told you. You know what I know what you have to do. You have to like, share, follow, and be on geni.eu for the largest youth entrepreneurship festival, where also Matteo and his colleague are going to be there looking at your innovations. Any final words, Matteo?
No, I just want to say thank you. And I want to just say to everybody, young people, fly the world, because there's nothing more exciting to discover new places and get to know new people. And that's one of the real blessing of our industry.
Every trip a new page of our beautiful book of life. Definitely. Thank you so much, Matteo Curcio. Thank you so much, Delta Airlines. And see you at geni.eu.